Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's presentation. My name is Eid John, and I'm HSC advisor for the company. Today, I'm going to present you a 15-minute presentation session on the topic corporate social responsibility in health and safety management. How corporate social responsibility works and how it can help to improve our health and safety performance due to the initiation of CSR or corporate social responsibility. So let's go through the slides first. In the slides we have a table of content. In the table of content we have topics, objectives, introduction to CSR and health and safety, what is the link, why should a business adopt CSR, the motivation behind, stakeholder identification and engagement, how we identify our stakeholders and how we should engage them in CSR development or initiations. Developing a CSR initiative, how can we develop? Benefits of CSR driven health and safety. If we combine CSR and health and safety, what could be the benefits the organization can get from this? And recommendation for senior management. So some of the evidence-based recommendation for senior management to improve our health and safety management with the help of CSR initiative. Question and answer session, of course, at the end, and then references I've added, the references based on which I prepared the slides for today's presentation. So let's begin. First of all, objectives. The objectives are end of this 15 minutes presentation, the attendees can understand the purpose of CSR and how it helps to improve health and safety management, explain the rationale or motivation to adopt CSR approach, define how to identify and engage with stakeholders when developing CSR initiatives. So these are the three objectives we're going to cover in this presentation. First of all, overview of corporate social responsibility. So we need to understand what is corporate social responsibility. It's a voluntary engagement or voluntary integration of social and environmental concerns into business operation. We need to understand that it's a voluntary initiative by the management, by the business, and we need to consider environmental concerns and a sustainable development in our business practices. Responsible business practices with balancing profit, people, and the planet. We need to consider the three things in CSR. We need to consider the people, we need to consider the environment or the planet we live in, and of course the profit, the bottom line of the business. So these three should be considered when developing CSR initiative. Acting ethically and contributing to sustainable development includes labor rights, environmental stewardships, and ethical governance. So these are the overview of CSR initiative. So what are the main objectives? The main objectives of CSR are enhance long-term business sustainability. If we adopt CSR initiative, that could be a long-term business sustainability and practices, improve social and environmental footprints, how we can protect our environment, how we can consider the social footprints where we live and where we operate our business. Foster positive relationships with stakeholders. The stakeholders we work with or we work among, we need to foster a good relationship, and CSR can help with that. Improve productivity and employees' morale. So the CSR can help to boost employee morals, and which leads to increased productivity, of course. CSR and health and safety, the links. So what are the connection between CSR and health and safety? How can we improve one and impact the other? Like if we develop a CSR initiative which can improve health and safety. So how? CSR includes responsibilities for employees' health and safety. It's the same. In health and safety, what we consider is the health and welfare and safety of our people. So CSR considered the same, the welfare of the people, which are our part of business, the employees, the environment, the community. CSR promotes proactive health and safety systems. The same, if we proactively act based on CSR initiative, it leads to improve our health and safety performance. So it's a link. CSR reduces accidents, absenteeism, and reputational risk. The same goes, if we improve our CSR initiative, which will impact positively our health and safety performance, and the benefits are reducing accidents, reducing absenteeism, and reputational risk. If we have a good reputation, good safety culture, good CSR practices, the reputation of our organization can be enhanced. So, and then lastly, ethical business practices drive safer working environments. Same, if we implement health and safety, what we achieve is safe business practices. The same, if we implement or initiate CSR, which will help us to drive safer work environment, safer work condition and practices, which will again benefit us in accident reduction, cost reduction in investigations and repairment and replacement, and also reputation. We can have more business, more competency in the market. We can have a leverage because we have a positive CSR and best practices. We have ethical behaviors, we have ethical standards which can help us. So why should a business adopt CSR? What are the motivators, or what are the motivations behind adopting CSR? Number one, CSR ensures legal compliance and effective risk assessment. If we as a business adopt CSR, which will help us to ensure we are complying legally, as well as we are conducting the risk assessment effective. Proactively, we conduct the risk assessment, we identify potential risk, we implement control measures, and then which will lead to reduce accidents, reduce damage of assets and products or property. So CSR ensures ethical standards and human rights compliance. If we develop and implement CSR, which will help us to boost ethical standards, we will care about the people, the community, the stakeholders we are working with, and human rights compliance. We will be able to comply with the human rights. We will be considering human rights first in our business practices. CSR improves brand reputation in competitive global market. If we implement CSR, which will help us, as I mentioned earlier, we will have a competitive leverage in the market. We will have more business opportunities because people, stakeholders, investors, shareholders will think that the company has positive safety culture. They have a proactive CSR initiative which is covering the people, the community, the stakeholders, and the environment. So there are less chance of cost reduction, penalties, fines, and of course people will come to invest with the business. CSR helps business meet investor and consumer expectations. What consumer and customer or investor expects? To have smooth operation, to have more profit, to take care of their rights. So if we have CSR, we can meet these expectations very easily. We can cover this already in our CSR initiative and strategies. CSR improves employee morale and productivity, as I mentioned earlier. If we have CSR, we will be taking care of the employees which are working for us, and then once the morale is improved, they will have more productivity, they will have more results of the work, and they will have positive safety practices in their hand. So stakeholder identification. Who are the stakeholders? We need to identify first. Some stakeholders are internal, some are external. So internal stakeholders, for example, workers, employees, procurement, management, quality control, board. So these are our internal stakeholders which we can have, we should identify when we develop our CSR initiative. And then external stakeholders, those are suppliers, communities, workers, unions, customers, contractors, and local authorities. These are external stakeholders, but these stakeholders can be affected by our practices, our operations as a business. So we need to consider them, and we need to identify these internal and external stakeholders when we gonna initiate the CSR strategy. So how can we engage the stakeholders? First, we identify the stakeholders, and then the second phase is we have to engage them in developing our CSR strategies. So how can we engage the stakeholders? And why should we engage the stakeholders? As I mentioned earlier, because this will help us to identify the stakeholder needs and expectation. What are their needs? What are their expectations as a business from us? So we need to identify that when we engage them, and then determine their expectations. As I mentioned, what are their expectations from us? We need to determine this, and then to understand their concerns. Is there any problems, concerns for the stakeholders? We need to identify that. So once we engage them formally with the different mechanisms, we can identify these three things: their needs, their concerns, and their expectations. So what could be the strategies to engage stakeholders? Right, so we can implement site audits, surveys and interviews of the stakeholders. By that we can understand their needs and their expectations and their concerns. Secondly, supplier capacity building workshops and forums. We can have arranging forums with external stakeholders, internal stakeholders. We can ask them to bring up their concerns, to bring up their suggestions and feedbacks. Workers' feedback mechanism, e.g. hotlines, suggestions and feedback boxes, joint committees with workers' representatives, community outreach programs and forums. So for internal stakeholders, for employees and workers mostly, we can have suggestion boxes, we can have consultation sessions, feedback sessions, we can get their concerns, expectations and needs by that. In written form, in a meeting, in joint committees, we can have joint committees with worker representatives, so we can hear their concerns, their expectations and their needs. And community outreach programs, we will care about the community because we're working among the community, and our practices, our operation can impact them. So what are their expectations from us? How can we protect them? How can we benefit the community? So once we engage the community, we can understand their needs and their expectation. Accordingly, we can put some control measures or some measures to meet their expectations. How can we develop the CSR initiative? So we can develop, first we need to define the objectives, what could be our objectives, and then identify and engage stakeholders, who will be our stakeholders and how can we engage them. As we discussed earlier, integrate CSR principles in supplier onboarding. While contracting suppliers, we should engage them in our CSR practices and initiatives. Conduct baseline risk assessments across supplier sites, dynamic risk assessment and formal risk assessment to identify is there any issues, concerns. Develop and communicate policy, CSR policy, we should develop and communicate them, and what could be our strategies to develop that. Monitor and review progress using KPIs, incident rates, audit scores, etc. So by these we can develop a CSR, because if we implement these things, we can have the data, the information available, and based on that we can develop the strategies to meet the targets, the expectations, the needs of these stakeholders. What could be the benefits of health and CSR driven health and safety? If we have a linked or connection between CSR and health and safety, what could be the benefits? The benefits would be safer workplaces with fewer incidents and low costs, reduced downtimes, enhanced brand reputation and media perceptions, strong stakeholder relationships and trust, improved suppliers reliability and quality, improved sustainable practices and adaptability. So these are the benefits we can achieve when we implement CSR driven health and safety management. I would like to give some recommendation for our management, which are leadership from the top should commit for a united CSR health and safety management system, train employees and suppliers, timely resolution of stakeholder concerns. The management should provide a resource timely basis to resolve these concerns, implement continuous monitoring and transparent reporting by audit, surveys, interviews, inspections. So set targets tied to executive KPIs. So when we do the KPIs, there should be a CSR and health and safety performance criteria to meet. That's it from my end. If you have any question, please let me know. We can discuss further. Thank you.